In a shared universe, not long for this world, one character must find out who killed her. Hey everyone, it's vmcampos Comic Book Fan, and welcome to the latest episode of the weekly vmcampos Comic Book Club. This is a series where I review a comic book, new or old, from my collection. This week I'm reviewing Comics Greatest World, Week 3, published in June 1993. If you'd like to help out the channel, don't forget to click that join button here in YouTube or head on over to the Patreon. I would really appreciate it. On with the show. So a little bit of background info as usual. Comics Greatest World was an initiative from Dark Horse Comics in the 90s to create their own shared universe. And I think it started off very strong. A 16-issue, 4 issues at a time series debuted, focusing on a different sort of location within this shared universe. There were some very forgettable characters here and there, and some that still resonate in my mind 30 years later. Some that were big enough to actually have a Hollywood movie, but really only one that stood the test of time, only one that survived the comics crash of the 90s, and that was Ghost. This character debuted in the first batch of 4 on week 3, and as we will see when we go through the book by detail, there's a lot of interesting stuff about this particular character, but I think the best bit of background information is that this was a shared universe when that wasn't such a big thing like it is nowadays, especially for a third-party candidate like Dark Horse Comics. They had their Comics Greatest World plans. Nowadays, most fans don't even know about this series, I think, and I kind of want to read the whole thing again. After all, it's only 16 issues of the core series, a lot of really forgettable characters, but it'd be kind of cool for me to reread that series again and then maybe even do videos on it, like the whole thing. The X character by Frank Miller cover was one that really stays in my memory all these years later. And of course, everyone knows Barbed Wire because Pamela Anderson was in the movie. But then Ghost, I think, was the most multi-layered character of all with her story. And it showed in the sales because she was the only book that debuted from 93, went all the way into the year 2000, then was rebooted again in the 2000s. There has not been a new Ghost series in a while, I think 10 years or so as of this video. But I'd love to have the character rebooted one day, as we will see why in this origin issue. All right, so first of all, the cover. Here's a Dave Dorman cover. I know Dorman's work a little bit more from various Star Wars art books and the like, and he lends his skills to this superhero character. So we have the character herself, Ghost. She's there floating. If you look carefully, you see here and there a bit of the ghostly aspect that, she's phasing through that piece of metal. Her logo, I always liked that logo. Each character had their own logo. There's Barbed Wire's logo. There's also a foil version later for another issue. Hey, Adam Warren art. The Mecha logo, the Pitbulls logo, and then, of course, simply the X logo for the character X. Oh, Frank Miller. Moving on to the interior. So this is an origin issue, but what was really interesting was that on the first page of every one of the whole 16-issue arc, on the first page, there was this other story that was happening about the Vortex. This is one of the 4 locations where these various books were taking place, all delineated by a logo. But they all take place in a certain location with a certain vibe and style and characters and so forth, except for the very first page, which is taking place in Cinnabar Flats, where the Vortex is happening. And these were all written by Mike Richardson himself, the founder of Dark Horse Comics. And it's very non sequitur because we have a little bit of the story and then we go to the main story. So I want to say, first of all, in this review, I loved this first issue, but not for the reasons that you think. The story was completely WTH. The story was completely incomplete. The story was incoherent to several degrees, but I still really enjoyed this first origin issue. And you don't even get any sort of meaningful origin at all about Ghost. You don't get any origin about any of the ancillary characters and the other big character of the whole shared universe. on the one hand, this is a very unsatisfying issue. It's very unsatisfying, and then go off to the next part of the series, World's Greatest, week 4, Monster, which is this one over here. But I found it satisfying because of its unsatisfying nature. I know that's paradoxical, but hear me out. So we have at the beginning this one-page story that ties into the other 15 pages if you get every other of the 15 weekly published issues. And at the time, they were only $1.25 in Canada, and you can get them all cheap. I just saw on eBay that you can get the whole 16 issues for $14. So you put that story together, and then you have the story of this character. You don't see the main character until the second page, and it's not really any that of an impressive introduction. There's no full page spread that I would have loved to have seen for the introduction of Ghost. The closest is just at the back with a black and white drawing, which was drawn, as per the credits, Randall M. Green and Gary Martin. That's the only kind of full page of the character. Within her own story, there's no big reveal for her. The first that you see is this weird techno guy. And so this is also part of the incompleteness of it. You really have to read the whole 16 issues to know what's going on, because we have some sort of weird techno-religious cult happening at the same time. This is Brother Mercine, and they talk with the other brothers and sisters of something's going to happen. If you only read this one issue, you're going to be extremely confused. But I do believe you're going to feel that I need to read more. I need to read the other issues. Anyway, so this interdimensional religious figure is kind of scoping things out because some energy signatures are kind of blipping in and out. So he then does some techno speak here. I am going to readjust my visual receptors by boosting the intermediary gain. Amazing. Then he sees Ghost. He sees some sort of being that is not in this reality and not in his reality. And what's going on? So he sees the Ghost character. She doesn't see him yet. And so she's off on her part of the plot, which is to go spy on some bad guys. And I just love the sequence of pages here where the camera, it's very cinematic. The camera starts off at a far distance and then gets closer and closer and closer. All the while, Ghost is just kind of walking around here and there observing things. And by her expression, I think she doesn't like that guy. On the next panel here, on the next page here, we have another sort of close-up of things and an amazing amount of action, but we have the other big character of the whole 16-issue arc, X, and there he is running from a distance, getting closer, and he jumps right in, crashes in. Amazing art. I love that. Kirash. Great panel layout over here with sort of the radiating of the glass breaking, and then this is the only sort of full-page shot of Ghost herself, although she's just part of the whole rest of the action. But this is a great panel layout. Also how the edges of the panels are unique. Ghost and X have a misunderstanding, as often happens with superhero team-ups, and they fight a little bit, although X can't hurt her. She's incorporeal. She's a ghost after all. She says, I'm already dead. I'm a ghost. Are you in a hurry to join me? So she takes out her big gun. And so, yeah, this was the age of the bad girls. Bad girls with big guns ruled this time in comics, and I loved it. I was in my late teens, so of course I loved it. I still love it years later, where I'm definitely not in my teens anymore, but I still love it for the nostalgia of it. And those of us that were there, this was an amazing time, a brand new shared universe of amazing new characters with kick-butt guys and hot girls and interdimensional plots and the like. So, action happens, then Ghost sees one of the interdimensional religious guys. Confirmation, it has seen me. According to engagement protocol, I will terminate. And so he fires a blast, but wait a minute. Target has avoided fire by changing frequency harmonics. Subject discharging projectile weapon, no damage, retreating. So yeah, this cadre of religious guys and Ghost herself trying to figure things out. Basically, she reveals, I'm trying to figure out who killed me. This guy over here, he's part of the key. X, get out of my way. I need him. But X is going to do justice in his own way. Don't kill him, please. Snap. So, yeah, there's definitely a reason for Ghost not to like X. I wonder if they'll team up in several issues grudgingly. So anyway, Ghost leaves him. Kind of anticlimactically also leaves him. anticlimactically she appears in a way. There's a lot of anticlimactedness. That's not a word, but there's a lot of anticlimacticity in this book. But it's kind of one of the reasons why I love it. It really intrigues me that I want to read the rest. I want to read the whole sequence again of 16 issues. And it's short. For $1, you're not getting the usual 24 or 32 pages. It is short by a couple of pages. And there's enough action and an interesting panel layouts. This is a really good one here. And interesting characters to keep you coming back. X is kind of the through line throughout the whole series, where then every character is introduced in their own, and if they were enough of a hit, they would have their own ongoing comic. Spoiler alert, there were only like 2 that had their ongoing series. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times to get into comics. After the millions and millions of selling comics of Spider-Man #1, X-Force #1, X-Men #1, Death of Superman, The Breaking of the Bat, everyone wanted to get into comics and do their own thing. Now, Dark Horse had been around since 1986, so they were not a new kid on the block by 93, but they were starting their initiative of a shared universe with a lot of interesting characters, with high-quality paper. This is a cardstock cover. The printing is really nice. The color is really nice. Interesting panel layouts, very good artwork. But it just didn't work. Ghost was the only character that survived the big shakeup of the comics crash of the 90s, with over 40 issues in total, where everyone else was a one-shot or appeared in other people's books for a little bit. But for every Ghost and Barbed Wire, there was a Division 13 and Rebel that went nowhere. And after all, it was a shame because we were dealing with comics' greatest world. Let me show off a couple more Ghost comics here. So, again, Ghost was one of the popular ones, so she had more books. Here we have the Ghost Special, which debuted a year later with Adam Hughes art. So, Adam Hughes is an artist I associate with Ghost, but one I associate even more is Rachel and Terry Dodson. Now, I know Terry Dodson definitely is credited. I don't know if Rachel actually is, but the amazing duo of Rachel and Terry Dodson also worked on various Ghost issues. Here we have Ghost falling out of, Ghost leaning into the action. We've got the, what is that, 3 dots right here? Yeah, there was a Predator crossover at the time. Dark Horse had all of these licenses with various properties, and they were interacting with all of their characters here and there. So here's another one. Hey, that guy looks familiar. Perhaps someone I saw in 1989. Anyway, here's an Adam Hughes cover, and then we've got issue number 5 over here. This one's pretty fun because we have the various Dark Horse characters, little kids dressing up as the Dark Horse characters. But wait a minute, is that the actual Mask himself and not a kid dressing up? That's what the comic speculation is all about. So yeah, there's a few issues of Ghost, various artists. This is the character that stood the test of time to the end of the millennium, and that was a big deal in a time when a huge comic crash really wiped out the comics industry. And in the meantime, we enjoy what we have, such as the first appearance of Ghost. So that was my quick review of the first appearance of this quick issue of Ghost. What do you think? Are you intrigued to read the whole Vortex plotline? Are you intrigued about getting your own first appearance of this character? It's very affordable, and I need to get another copy of it. This one's all beat up here at the front here, and then also on the back. This is my original copy from back in the day. I should pick up a brand new pristine copy. And I think there were also some really hard to get variants from Dynamic Forces, and we got platinum variants and all that good stuff. It was the 90s. But anyway, I should get another copy because it was a fun read. Again, it was kind of incomplete. Like, who's this character running up here? If you didn't know anything else, who's this character? And we don't have a very glamorous shot of the first character and then a non-glamorous exit. And who are these techno-religious guys? There's just so many questions. But it was week 3 out of 16 of this plot, so you can be forgiven for not being that complete. And as we saw here, a lot of great color, nice and bright, great paper, cool panel layout. So what do you think? Did you ever read Ghost back in the day? Did you read the X character? Is Barbed Wire the only Comics Greatest World character that you remember? Or was it Rebel or Pitbulls? Tell me in the comments. Yeah, come on, that's a great panel right there with the officer and then the lights shining on his face. This is good stuff. I will be reviewing some of the other comics Greatest World, like definitely the Barbed Wire book. We'll get to that a little bit later. And I really like this final shot here. I need that on a t-shirt. Oh, I forgot to say here, look at this great quote here. Investment banker Jules R. Moravchik was shot on Monday evening's performance of Macbeth at Victoria Theatre and died Tuesday at St. Jude's Medical Center. The shots were allegedly fired by a woman who, according to 6 eyewitnesses, walked through the theater's back wall. Peter Edwards, staff reporter, Daily Arcadian. So more of that world building. All of the books also have this sort of like little blurb at the end, a great black and white piece of the character, and then it's done and asking you to join a contest. And even if you never entered, you got to enjoy the first appearance of Ghost. So this week I read Comics Greatest World, Week 3, Ghost, number 1, published in 1993. This has been the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club, and I'll see you next week.